Have you ever seen an AI system hyped up so much that a CEO thinks it can replace humans? I spent 14 years keeping a supply chain from collapsing, and they thought they could get rid of me with just a 4.3% figure. Instead of screaming or crying, I just sent one email, and 29 partners disappeared with me within 72 hours. That's when their company realized you can't program loyalty. They thought I was redundant data wrong. I was the source code. My name is Samantha Rowe, though everyone calls me Sam. At 40, I'd spent nearly a third of my life as the logistics director at North Edge Freightworks, coordinating food and medical equipment distribution across the entire Midwest. Every morning at 6:30 a.m., I'd walk through the massive warehouse doors, coffee in hand, ready to solve whatever crisis had developed overnight. The warehouse staff called me the highway brain. I knew every route, every driver's quirks, every client's particular needs. I could tell you which highways had construction before the state's own website updated. I knew which warehouse managers needed extra attention and which ones just wanted you to drop the shipment and leave without small talk. That particular Wednesday started like any other. The June heat was already making the parking lot shimmer as I badged into the building. Marissa from accounting waved at me from her car, always arriving exactly 14 minutes after me, like clockwork. I nodded at security guard Pete, who was finishing his overnight shift and looked like he needed his bed more than another conversation. "Morning, Pete. Anything exciting?" He shook his head, stifling a yawn. "Quiet night, Ms. Rowe. Just how we like it." I didn't notice the unfamiliar luxury sedan parked in the visitor's spot. I didn't notice the cluster of suits in the conference room as I passed. I was too busy scanning the overnight reports on my tablet, already mentally rerouting 3 deliveries around a sudden roadblock in Nebraska. My office wasn't anything special, just a glass-walled box overlooking the warehouse floor. I liked it that way. I could see everything: the forklifts zigzagging between shelves, the loading docks bustling with activity, the massive electronic board tracking every incoming and outgoing shipment. This was my domain, my perfectly orchestrated symphony of movement. "Sam." The voice from my doorway belonged to Kathleen from HR. Her face set in that particular expression HR people develop when they're about to do something unpleasant but necessary. Behind her stood Mr. Halverson, our CEO, and a younger man I didn't recognize, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. "We need you in conference room C," Kathleen said, not quite meeting my eyes. I remember feeling a slight flutter of apprehension, but dismissing it. After 14 years, what could possibly go wrong? Maybe another acquisition, another restructuring where they'd ask me to absorb even more responsibility without a corresponding pay increase. The usual corporate dance. I locked my computer screen force of habit and followed them down the hallway. The conference room held 4 more people I didn't know, all with identical tablets and expressions of studied neutrality. The young man in the expensive suit positioned himself at the head of the table, clearly establishing ownership of the meeting. "Samantha, thank you for joining us." "Mr. Halverson began. His Norwegian accent, slightly more pronounced than usual, a tell I'd learned, meant he was uncomfortable. "This is Landon Pierce. He's been brought on to help modernize some of our operations." Landon Pierce. The name meant nothing to me then. 6 foot something, perfect teeth, haircut that screamed, "I have a standing weekly appointment that costs 3 figures. He had the confident smile of someone who'd never been told he was wrong. "Nice to meet you," I lied, placing my tablet on the table. "What are we discussing today?" Landon's smile widened as he tapped his tablet to project onto the wall screen. "The future of North Edge Freightworks," he announced, like he was unveiling the cure for cancer. The presentation was titled, "Project Nexus Optimization Through Intelligence." I still remember how the word intelligence had a small AI icon next to it, subtle as a sledgehammer. "As you know," Landon continued, his voice carrying that distinct MBA cadence, "North Edge has been successful in traditional logistics management, but the board believes we can be industry leaders by embracing cutting-edge technology." Mr. Halverson nodded along, a puppet with visible strings. "We've been developing a proprietary algorithm," Landon continued, clicking through slides of impressive-looking graphs and charts. That can revolutionize how we handle logistics coordination. It will eliminate human error, optimize fuel costs, and predict supply chain disruptions before they occur. I felt my eyebrows climbing toward my hairline. This wasn't the first time some consultant had swept in with promises of technological salvation. I'd seen at least 3 similar initiatives fizzle out during my tenure. That sounds promising, I said cautiously. I'd be happy to work with your team to implement. Actually, Landon interrupted, his smile never wavering. This is where we need to discuss your role, Samantha. The air in the room shifted. Kathleen from HR suddenly became very interested in her notepad. We're restructuring the logistics department, Landon explained. The new system will centralize decision-making through the algorithm, which will require a different organizational structure. I've replayed that moment in my mind countless times since. The perfectly rehearsed corporate speak, the way Mr. Halverson couldn't quite look me in the eye, the slight twitch of satisfaction at the corner of Landon's mouth. You're firing me, I stated flatly. No. Landon rushed to correct. We're eliminating your position as part of a larger restructuring initiative. There's a difference. Not to my mortgage, there isn't, I replied, surprised at how calm I sounded. Kathleen cleared her throat. We're prepared to offer a generous severance package, Sam, 6 months' salary, extended health benefits, and outplacement services. 6 months for 14 years, the math didn't add up. May I ask why? I kept my voice level, professional. Landon seemed almost eager to answer. Our projections show that the new system will reduce routing errors by 4.3% and cut fuel costs by approximately 2.8% in the first year alone. That represents millions in savings and increased efficiency. 4.3%. That number burned itself into my brain. They were replacing 14 years of relationships, experience, and institutional knowledge for a 4.3% improvement on paper. I see, I said. Because what else could I say? I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to cry. Not in front of Landon Pierce and his perfect teeth. We'll need you to assist with the transition, of course, Landon added as if offering me a favor. Your historical knowledge will be valuable as we train the system. Translation, we need you to tell us everything you know so we can feed it into our precious algorithm. Then we'll show you the door. When does this transition begin? I asked. Immediately. Mr. Halverson finally spoke up. We'd like you to spend the next 2 weeks documenting your processes and helping onboard the new team. 2 weeks, 14 years reduced to 2 weeks. I took a deep breath and made a decision in that moment that would change everything, not just for me, but for North Edge Freightworks. Of course, I said pleasantly. I'll do everything I can to ensure a smooth transition. The relief in the room was palpable. They'd expected tears, protests, maybe even a scene. Not this calm acceptance. Thank you for understanding, Sam. Mr. Halverson said, clearly relieved. Your professionalism is appreciated. I nodded, already thinking several moves ahead. I'll start compiling my notes right away. Will I be working directly with the technical team? Landon seemed pleased by my cooperative attitude. Yes, I've assembled a team of data scientists who will be working with you to map your decision-making processes. Perfect. I smiled. I'll make sure they have everything they need. As the meeting dispersed, Kathleen handed me a thick envelope containing my severance agreement. Take some time to review this, she advised. No need to sign it today. I tucked it into my bag without looking at it. Thanks, Kathleen. I appreciate that. Back in my office, I closed the door and took exactly 30 seconds to process what had just happened. 14 years. Gone for a 4.3% improvement promised by someone who probably couldn't find Nebraska on a map. Then I got to work. First, I created a new USB drive labeled Transition Notes. On it, I placed a carefully curated collection of files, outdated routing information, generic process documents that said nothing of value, and a few deliberately mislabeled folders. In one folder labeled Critical Vendor Contacts, I placed nothing but memes and a pirate-themed map to the nearest Taco Bell. My real transition plan was something else entirely. I opened my personal email and sent myself a message with the subject line, Plan Echo. Attached were the contact details for every major supplier and client I'd worked with over the years, information that technically belonged to the company but had never been properly documented because no one had ever bothered to ask. Then I sent 29 very carefully worded text messages to the 29 most important partners in our network. People who knew me, trusted me, and depended on my expertise to keep their own operations running smoothly. The message was simple: changes happening at North Edge. Hold all non-essential shipments until you hear from me directly. We'll update within 48 hours. No elaboration, no explanation. Just enough to create a pause, a moment of hesitation in the finely tuned machine I'd built over 14 years. Then I waited for the data scientists to arrive. They came the next morning, 3 of them, led by a woman named Dr. Mei Jiang, who seemed competent, but had clearly been fed Landon's Kool-Aid. "We're really excited about this project," she told me enthusiastically. "The algorithm we've developed has shown remarkable results in simulations." Simulations, I repeated with a smile. Always reliable. If she caught my sarcasm, she didn't show it. "We'll need to understand your decision-making process, how you prioritize shipments, how you handle disruptions, how you allocate resources." Of course. I agreed. "I've prepared some documentation to get you started." I handed over the USB drive. "This covers the basics. But logistics is about relationships as much as routes. Some things can't be quantified easily." Dr. Zhang nodded politely, but I could tell she didn't believe me. In her world, everything could be reduced to data points and algorithms. For the next 2 days, I played along. I answered their questions, walked them through scenarios, explained how I coordinated with drivers and warehouses. But I never once mentioned the unwritten rules, the personal connections, the favors owed and collected over years of building trust. I never told them that Rico in Omaha would hold a truck for an extra hour if you asked nicely, but would close his loading dock on the dot if you were demanding. I never explained that Jules in Houston needed to be called, not emailed, because she never checked her inbox before noon. I kept quiet about the fact that the route algorithm always suggested going through Cleveland, but experienced drivers knew to avoid it on Fridays due to a recurring high school football traffic nightmare. Meanwhile, my phone was buzzing with responses from my network of partners. From Rico: "What's going on? Sam holding as requested." From Jules: "Call me ASAP, worried about my Thursday shipments." From dozens of others, variations on "waiting for your word." On the 3rd day, I received an email from a company I'd never heard of, Blue Cascade Logistics. The subject line read simply, "Opportunity." I opened it after the data scientist left my office for lunch. "Mizit Row," it began. "Your reputation in the logistics industry is well known. We've recently learned you may be available and would be interested in discussing potential opportunities with our organization. Our CEO, Victoria Chen, would appreciate a confidential conversation at your earliest convenience." I did some quick research. Blue Cascade was a direct competitor to North Edge, smaller but growing rapidly. They specialized in the same sectors: food distribution and medical equipment, and they were headquartered just 20 miles away. I replied with my personal phone number and a simple message: "Available to talk after 6 p.m. today." That evening, I spoke with Victoria Chen for over an hour. Unlike Landon Pierce with his algorithm obsession, she understood the value of human expertise in logistics. "We've been trying to expand in the Midwest for years," she told me frankly. "But North Edge U, specifically, has always had the region locked down tight. The relationships you've built are legendary in the industry." "Those relationships are about to be handed over to an AI system," I replied. Victoria laughed. "That's the stupidest thing I've heard this quarter. No algorithm can manage the human side of logistics." That's what I tried to tell them. "Their loss could be our gain," Victoria said. "I'd like to offer you a position as Director of Partner Relations. Salary 30% above what you're making now, full benefits, and a signing bonus." I thought about it for approximately 3 seconds. "When can I start?" How about next Monday? Perfect, I said. And Victoria, I think I can bring more than just my expertise to Blue Cascade. I was hoping you'd say that, she replied. The next morning, I sent 29 more text messages to my most trusted contacts. Meeting at Riverside Hotel, Conference Room B, tomorrow at 7 p.m. Your future business with North Edge will be significantly impacted. Attendance strongly recommended. Then I opened a Google Doc and made 3 lists. 1. The companies that needed my services. 2. The suppliers who would follow me. 3. The financial impact their departure would have on North Edge's system. By the time I walked into the Riverside Hotel the following evening, I had a complete battle plan. 27 of my 29 contacts had confirmed their attendance. The other 2 had sent representatives. I stood at the front of the conference room, looking at the faces of people I'd worked with for years, some for my entire career at North Edge. Warehouse managers, shipping coordinators, fleet supervisors, purchasing directors. The real backbone of the supply chain, not the algorithms or the MBAs. Thank you all for coming, I began. As some of you may have heard, North Edge Freightworks is implementing a new AI-driven logistics system. As part of this transition, my position has been eliminated. Murmurs of surprise and dismay spread through the room. Starting Monday, I'll be joining Blue Cascade Logistics as their new Director of Partner Relations. I paused to let that sink in. I've asked you here because you deserve to know how this might affect your operations. For the next hour, I laid out exactly what was likely to happen at North Edge without me there to manage the countless exceptions, special arrangements, and personal agreements that kept everything running smoothly. I didn't exaggerate, I didn't need to. The truth was damning enough. The new system might work perfectly on paper, I explained, but we all know logistics isn't just about algorithms. It's about relationships, trust, and understanding each other's needs. Rico from Omaha stood up. Sam, I've worked with you for 11 years. My drivers trust you. My warehouse crew respects you. If you're saying this new system is going to be a problem, that's all I need to know. Jules from Houston nodded in agreement. North Edge is about to learn a very expensive lesson about the human element in business. By the end of the meeting, 23 companies had verbally committed to moving their business to Blue Cascade if I could guarantee the same level of service they'd received under my management at North Edge. The remaining 6 weren't ready to commit but agreed to experience significant delays in processing North Edge orders until they could evaluate the new system. I called Victoria Chen from the hotel lobby afterward. How did it go? She asked. We might need to accelerate our onboarding process, I replied. I think we're about to get very busy. The chaos at North Edge began the very next day, my last official day at the company. It started small. 3 routine deliveries were rerouted by the new system to what the algorithm determined were more efficient destinations. Unfortunately, one was a closed warehouse, one was a vape shop that certainly didn't order medical gloves, and the third was a competitor's facility that refused the delivery outright. By noon, drivers were calling my office in confusion. I directed them all to Landon's team. The new system generated these routes, I explained innocently. I'm sure they can explain the logic behind them. Meanwhile, several major suppliers began calling the procurement department, refusing to process orders because they hadn't received proper authorization. I only deal with Sam. Rico told the increasingly frustrated procurement manager, that's our agreement. But the purchase order is in the system. I don't care about your system. Sam verifies all Omaha routes personally. That's non-negotiable. Similar conversations were happening throughout the company. The carefully coordinated dance of logistics was falling apart step by step. Landon Pierce stormed into my office around 2 p.m., his perfect hair slightly disheveled. What's going on? He demanded. Why are suppliers refusing to honor their contracts? I looked up calmly from my computer, where I was deliberately deleting files from my hard drive. I'm not sure what you mean. Don't play dumb, Samantha. Suddenly half our suppliers are claiming they have special arrangements with you that aren't documented anywhere. I shrugged. Many of our relationships have evolved over the years. Not everything gets formalized in writing. That's exactly the kind of inefficiency we're trying to eliminate. Landon's face was turning an interesting shade of red. Where are the proper process documents? Where are the supplier agreement details? I handed him the USB drive. Everything I was able to document is here. As I told your team, a lot of this business runs on relationships and trust. That's not something you can easily quantify. He snatched the drive. This is completely unacceptable. You were responsible for maintaining proper records. Was I asked innocently. I don't recall that being in my job description. I was hired to keep things running smoothly, which I did. For 14 years. Landon's jaw worked soundlessly for a moment. The transition team will need your help sorting this out. We may need to extend your time here. I smiled and stood up, collecting my personal items into a small box. I'm afraid that won't be possible. Today is my last day, as agreed. My severance package specifically prohibits any additional work without compensation renegotiation. And I've accepted a position elsewhere, starting Monday. The look on his face was worth every minute of the 14 years I'd given to North Edge. Pure, unadulterated panic. You can't just leave us with this mess. Actually, I can. It's 5 p.m. And I am no longer a North Edge employee. I picked up my box and walked past him. Best of luck with your algorithm. I'm sure that 4.3% improvement will be worth it. I left my keycard on Kathleen's desk on my way out. She gave me a look that mixed sympathy with something else, perhaps respect. They're going to regret this, aren't they? She asked quietly. I suspect they already do, I replied. The weekend passed peacefully. I took my dog for long walks, caught up on my reading, and ignored the 17 increasingly desperate voicemails from various North Edge managers. Monday morning, I arrived at Blue Cascade Logistics at 8 a.m., greeted by Victoria Chen herself. Ready to shake up the industry? She asked with a grin. More than ready, I replied. My new office was smaller than my old one, but had a better view not of a warehouse floor, but of the city skyline. Victoria had already arranged meetings with all 29 of my contacts for the coming week. The press release goes out at noon, she informed me. We're announcing you as our new Director of Partner Relations and outlining our expanded capacity to serve the Midwest region. Perfect timing, I noted. By Tuesday morning, Blue Cascade had officially onboarded 12 major clients formerly exclusive to North Edge. By Wednesday, that number had risen to 19. Each transition was smooth, personal, and handled with the human touch that no algorithm could replicate. Meanwhile, North Edge was imploding. According to my still loyal contacts, Landon's precious system was sending trucks to the wrong locations, scheduling pickups at impossible hours, and generally creating the kind of chaos that costs millions in lost productivity and customer goodwill. The data scientists were frantically trying to understand the unwritten rules that had governed my operation for years. But those rules weren't in any database or spreadsheet. They existed in relationships, in trust built over countless interactions, in the minute adjustments I made daily to keep everyone happy and everything moving. On Thursday morning, a local business news site ran the headline, Supply Chain Chaos Hits, North Edge as Key Clients Defect to Competitor. The article detailed how Blue Cascade had executed a stunning coup in the regional logistics sector by hiring me and subsequently attracting nearly half of North Edge's prime accounts. That same afternoon, Mr. Halverson himself called my personal cell phone. Sam, he began without preamble, we need to talk. I'm listening, I replied, leaning back in my new office chair. This situation has gotten out of hand. What you're doing, it's not right. What exactly am I doing? Mr. Alverson, working for a company that values my expertise. Maintaining relationships with clients who prefer my approach to logistics. You're deliberately sabotaging North Edge, he accused. No, I corrected him. I'm providing excellent service to clients who choose to work with me. That's not sabotage, it's competition. The board is furious. Legal is reviewing your severance agreement for violations. They won't find any, I assured him. I never signed the non-compete clause Kathleen offered. I never disparaged Northedge to any client. I simply informed them of my new position and offered my services through Blue Cascade. There was a long silence. "What would it take to bring you back?" he finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The question surprised me, though perhaps it shouldn't have. "That's not an option. Mr. Halverson, I've made commitments to Blue Cascade and to the clients who followed me here. We could match whatever they're paying you, add a substantial bonus. It's not about the money," I told him honestly. "It's about respect, about understanding that 14 years of human expertise can't be replaced by an algorithm showing a 4.3% improvement in simulations." Another silence, longer this time. "For what it's worth," Mr. Halverson said finally. I pushed back against this initiative. Landon convinced the board with his presentations and projections. And where is Landon now, I couldn't resist asking. "Reassigned to future innovation projects," Mr. Halverson admitted, which we both knew was corporate speak for, put somewhere he can't do any more damage. "I'm sorry it ended this way," I said, and part of me meant it. 14 years is a long time to invest in a company. "So am I, Sam, so am I." By the end of the week, 29 clients had officially moved their business to Blue Cascade. Northedge's stock had dropped 12% on news of the client exodus and supply chain failures. Industry analysts were already writing postmortems on the company's disastrous attempt to replace human expertise with artificial intelligence. 3 months later, I was settled comfortably into my role at Blue Cascade. We had expanded our operations, hired additional staff including several former Northedge employees who reached out after hearing about my move, and were reporting record growth. Northedge, meanwhile, had abandoned Project Nexus. The algorithm was quietly shelved, and they had hired not one but 3 logistics coordinators to replace me, none with my level of experience or network of relationships. I occasionally saw former colleagues at industry events. They would approach cautiously, as if unsure of my reaction, then break into relieved smiles when I greeted them warmly. It wasn't their fault, after all. Most were just trying to survive in the corporate machine, just as I had been. Even Kathleen from HR sought me out at a charity gala. "You know," she confided after a glass of wine, "what you did has become legendary at Northedge. They use you as a case study now in the dangers of undervaluing institutional knowledge." "Good," I replied. "Maybe some other Sam will keep her job because of it." "Landon's gone," she added with a hint of satisfaction. "Took a position with a startup in California. Mr. Halverson personally escorted him out." "Better late than never," I observed. I never saw Landon Pierce again, though I heard through the grapevine that his revolutionary logistics algorithm had failed to find buyers in the industry. Apparently, word had spread about the Northedge debacle. As for me, I still start my days early, still know every route and relationship in my network. The difference is that now I'm valued for that knowledge, not seen as an inefficiency to be optimized away. Some mornings, I sit in my office with a fresh cup of coffee, looking out at the city coming to life, and think about those frantic final days at Northedge. I don't consider what I did revenge, exactly. I simply recognize my own value when they failed too. They thought I was redundant data. In reality, I was the source code that made everything run. And as every good programmer knows, when you delete the source code, the whole system crashes. I didn't destroy Northedge out of spite. I just withdrew my expertise, the expertise they had decided was worth only 4.3% less than an algorithm, and offered it to someone who appreciated its true value. In the end, that's not revenge, it's just good business.